Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of the podcast. I got a cool logo behind me, and I'm ready to dive right back into the NBA season. As the second half of the season is about to tip off, post All-Star break, this is when everything starts to get good and interesting, and teams are fighting for seeding. And really, the competition kind of ramps up as teams are trying to either get into the playoffs or get their seeding right for the playoff run. So I thought I'd do this show, starting it off with pretty much I'm going to focus on the five teams that I'm most intrigued to watch down the stretch here in the second half of the NBA season. Now, this doesn't mean that these are my favorite teams or that they're actually the most fun to watch. This just means that these are the five teams that I'm most intrigued about. As you'll see, not all of them are doing fantastic, but these are the teams that kind of either have surprised me thus far, and I'm curious to see if it's for real, or that really have that star power that could kind of, come out of nowhere, even though right now it doesn't seem like they're ready for a finals run. So here we go. Let's dive right back into it, and I'll give you a little hint. One of the top five teams I am rocking right now. So that pretty much gives it away. But we'll start at number five. The fifth team I'm most intrigued by coming down the stretch here in the second half of the season. It has to be the Los Angeles Lakers. Like, the Luka trade still shocks me. I still can't believe that happened. And one of the things that I'm really looking at here is if they can make a run. They're sitting currently at 32-20, so they got a pretty solid record. They're in their fifth seed right now in the Western Conference, and they're only a half game behind Houston for the fourth seed, which means home court in the first round. The Lakers already are in good position to avoid the play-in. They've been playing good basketball even before Luka got there. Obviously, now they're, they don't really have a big. Jackson Hayes is kind of he's not a starting caliber big, but there's something to say about it being the Lakers and it being LeBron. And if him and Luka are healthy, I think that's just gonna scare you. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win. We just saw it happen in the NFL with the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody was like, you can't bet against Mahomes, and they ended up getting smacked. So just because you got that name cachet doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. But I don't know, but I would just not want to see LeBron in the playoffs at all because it's LeBron James. He's still, arguably still the best player in the league. Obviously, most would disagree, but when you think about his smarts, his IQ on the floor, the fact that he's still producing. I mean, the guy, I know he's in his 40s at this point, but he's still playing incredible basketball. His numbers are there, and obviously, once the playoffs roll around, like, he understands what it is. It's a different beast, and I think LeBron has been through it, so he knows to ramp up. And seeing him play with Luka, like, they'll figure it out. They both are great players now. Obviously, like I said, I'm just curious to see down the stretch how they mesh and how that starts looking. Because if they can get on a run, I mean, if you think about it, LeBron, I understand that this was, younger LeBron, but he took some of those Cleveland Cavaliers teams to the finals that had players worse than Jackson Hayes. And he didn't have a Luka Doncic next to him. So if he and Luka can kind of, carry this team, and it's not just him and Luka. I mean, Austin Reeves is a solid player. Dalton Connect, the trade didn't go through, so he's still on the Lakers. He's still a three-point shooter that they have at their disposal. And they have other guys and other weapons on that team. It's not like they don't have anybody. They're lacking in size. They don't have a big, but at the same time, unless they get a matchup where it's Joker versus Jackson Hayes, if they end up playing a team that isn't, doesn't have the bigs, like, let's say, the Warriors or something, that would be a great matchup for them. At that point, you got to feel confident if you're the Lakers. So we'll see how it works. And even when they did have a big and Anthony Davis to guard Jokic still was whooping them. So, even if how many points is Jokic going to put up if they end up facing the Lakers? 60, 70 against Jackson Hayes? I mean, at the end of the day, Jokic was putting up 30 plus and playing great in those series, and the Lakers didn't have a shot. So maybe now they will have more of a shot because they have more offense there with Luka. So again, we'll see. But that is, the team, the fifth team that I'm watching down the stretch to see how everything goes for them. The fourth team, I did just mention them, and it's the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, they get Jimmy Butler in this trade at the deadline. They've been playing pretty well since they got Jimmy Buckets. And one thing I will say is Jimmy Butler is a dog. That guy in the playoffs is scary, as we've seen it. The whole knock on him has been that he kind of mails in the regular season, especially the past few years. But we've seen him carry a team to the finals. In the bubble, he carried that Heat team. They played the Lakers in the bubble, and they've beaten some of those Celtics teams. Like he's a beast. And with him and Draymond, I know that players like Draymond get overlooked a lot because they're not the splash players. They're not making 3-pointers. Draymond isn't putting up 20 points a game or anything like that. But those are key guys in playoff matchups that make a difference. They are winning basketball players. So at this point, if you're the Warriors, you got a 2-guard in Jimmy Butler and a 3-guard or a small forward in Draymond Green, 2 pretty damn good defenders. Steph is not a bad defender himself. And obviously that lineup just got a lot better by getting Jimmy Butler. The Warriors are currently 28-27. So they're pretty much just hovering around 500. They're 10th seed currently in the West. And I'm trying to see if they can sneak up to that 6th seed. If they can clinch themselves a playoff spot, they're 3.5 games out. The Clippers currently hold that 6th seed. And I don't see why the Warriors can't get on a hot streak here and maybe get the 6th seed, and get into the playoffs themselves and maybe make some noise. Like, do I think they're ready for a finals run? Not necessarily, because I think they're kind of lacking, just like the Lakers are lacking a big. And I think they can get exposed if they play a team that has bigs like Joker or Jaren Jackson Jr. with the Grizzlies. But ultimately, I mean, the star power is also there. You got Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler can turn it up. So they could get mighty and dangerous there, and at least give a scare to someone in the first round. Possibly even get to the second round if they get the right matchup. So I'm watching the Warriors, seeing how they do. Now the third on my list, and like I said, not all these teams are having great seasons right now. I mean, I could have easily put this team at number 1, just because if you think about their preseason expectation, how they went all in, they traded for Paul George. Yes, I'm talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. You got Embiid. You got Tyrese Maxey, who's a stud. They signed and dealt for players this offseason that made it look like, oh, dang, they got the guys. They could do it this year. And they're currently sitting at 20-34. This is the most shocking record to me in the league. I did not think the Sixers would be this low in the standings. They're currently the 11th seed in the East. Let me do the math real quick. They are sitting 8.5 games out of a playoff spot. So it is very doubtful that they're even going to get into a top 6 seed. Detroit is currently holding that 6th seed. And the 7th seed is the Magic, and the Sixers are 6 games behind the Orlando Magic. So to make up 6 games in the second half of the season is kind of tough to do already. And for them to do that, it would just be to be the top spot in the play-in. So I'm very intrigued to see how the Sixers handle this. Because another thing you got to look at, what do they do with Embiid? He's been hurt this whole time. He's been in and out. And if they keep doing what they're doing, they're most likely going to lose their first-round draft pick. So currently their first-round draft pick is 1 through 6 protected. If not, it's going to the Oklahoma City Thunder out of all teams. The Thunder just have done it right. I don't know how that's happened with the Thunder, but they are incredible, and they already are kind of set up for the future as well. So that, like I said, that pick is up in the air right now. And if I'm the Sixers, I don't really know what I do. I really don't know what you do, because you want to win, obviously, and you believe in your team. But do we really think they have a deep playoff run in them? Because if the answer is no, you might be better off just benching Embiid. Maybe Paul George isn't feeling 100%. Maybe he sits out a couple games, and you start trying to maybe tank to try to keep that pick. But even doing that, it's no guarantee that you're going to have a top 6 pick. So they're in such a tough spot. And I feel like you either got to pick one way or the other, because if you just keep doing what you're doing, you're not just giving up that draft pick because at their current place in the standings, that pick is going to be like the 10th pick in the draft. So, at that point, you're just, this whole season's a lost season. You've been paying these guys all this money. You went all in, and now you just all that to give the first round pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's brutal. So, Sixers, I'm watching you guys. All right, number 2. And the team I'm second most intrigued by is the Denver Nuggets. Nobody's talking about the Nuggets like this, but the Denver Nuggets just won the championship 2 years ago. The Denver Nuggets, last time I checked, still have Nikola Jokic, who is playing at an MVP level again. They have Jamal Murray, who don't look now, but this guy has been balling again. So all these worries in the beginning of the season, he's balling. They've won 8 games in a row. And Russell Westbrook, remember that guy that no one really wanted on their team and thought that wasn't really a good team guy anymore? Well, he's fit in kind of seamlessly with the Nuggets. I don't know what it is about him and Jokic. They maybe understand each other. I think Russ has just, Russ is a dog. He's always going to be running. He's always going to be giving you 110%. And truthfully, I feel like Russ was always the guy to reward the guys that played at 110%. And now Russ is that guy and finally getting rewarded because that's what Joker does. Joker rewards guys that are going to, run behind the screen, get a back cut, look for the back door, run, hustle. Like Joker is all about that and is going to find you. He's got eyes behind his head. Like he's a magician. So I think Russ has finally felt like, hey, all this effort's working out. He's not frustrated. He's not, playing to the detriment of the team at the end of games or anything like that, because I think he trusts that if he gives the ball up and he hustles, he's going to get it back. And the fact that that has kind of happened, we thought the Nuggets were kind of depleted and, they started off the season kind of struggling. So everyone was like, oh man, is this it for the Nuggets? But we never thought of Russell Westbrook as like a key signing for them in the offseason. We, if anything, thought they lost more guys off the bench. But really, maybe he's strengthening that team and the bench and the way they play and everything. So I like the Nuggets. They're currently 36-19. Yes, they're 36-19. So they have a great record. They're the 3rd seed in the West right now. And they're only a half game out behind Memphis for the 2nd seed. And the Grizzlies have been battling injuries all year with, Jaws playing for a couple games and he sits out. So, I mean, call me crazy, but I don't know why the Nuggets can't get to the 2nd seed and end up, facing off against a play-in team. So, if that happens, then they're in business. Then they're probably going to match up with the Grizzlies in the 2-3 matchup in the 2nd round. So, I don't know. I'm calling it now. And I'm telling you, the Denver Nuggets could make another run, and I would not be surprised if they're playing in the Western Conference Finals against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm just saying it. And if that's the case, look, I love the Thunder. The Thunder fan base is one of my favorite fan bases in the whole NBA. But the Thunder haven't done it yet. And this is their year to prove it because the pressure will start ramping up if they don't get it done this year. Because also, all their talent is going to get more expensive. So it's going to be hard for the GM to end up paying those guys. And lucky for them, though, there's a team like the Sixers that might be giving them their 1st round pick. So I don't know. We'll see how all this works out. But watch the Nuggets. And last, but certainly not least, a team I thought was going to be pretty good, but I did not think was going to be this good. That number 1 team that I'm most intrigued to watch is the Cleveland Cavaliers. This team is 44-10. They have won 44 games already. They're 6 wins away from 50. They could have 50 by mid-March. Like, if you would have told me the Cavs would have had a 50-win season, I'd have been like, that's going to be tough. They could do it, but that'd be tough. And they're about to have it by mid-March. So, I mean, hey, the Cavs, look out. I mean, at this point, I feel like they're pretty certainly going to have a 60-win season. They pretty much have to play 500 the rest of the way. They played 54 games, which means they have 28 games left. So if they went 14-14, they would be 58-24, 500 the rest of the way. Yeah, the Cavs are gonna get 60 wins, 60 plus. Like that's wild. So the Cavaliers being the number one seed in the East, 5.5 games up on the Celtics right now, is pretty wild. I think they're obviously going to get the number one seed. I don't see the Celtics catching up to them. And, the team after that is the Knicks, who are 8 games back. So I'm very intrigued to watch this Cavs team. Is this going to be a team like the Atlanta Hawks from those years where, Paul Millsap and Al Horford years that they kept winning 50, 60 games and then would flame out? And they did that back to back years pretty much. Or is this team going to be, a 60-plus win team that then ends up in the finals? In the finals, like post LeBron, like to turn it around, actually, that's pretty quick. So, and they have the star power. I think Donovan Mitchell's a stud. Evan Mobley's coming into his own. Darius Garland, they just traded with Atlanta, got Hunter. He's a solid player, a 3-and-D guy that could guard some of the Celtics guys. So, would I favor them in a series against the Celtics? Probably not, because of the same thing I just said about the Thunder. They haven't done it yet. But for a team to, usually a team when they break through, it's because they haven't done it yet. So one of these teams, whether it's the Cavs or the Thunder, is going to have to break through this year. And, off the top of my head, I want to say it's going to be the Thunder, but I think the Thunder just have a tougher conference. The Thunder have tough teams in the West to get through. But the Cavs, I mean, they just traded for a guy that would be a huge help for them against the Boston Celtics. So I think they've kind of ramped up to be like, that's the team we need to take down. And the Celtics, to be quite honest, if they don't have to meet the Cavs until the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, trust me, the Celtics have proven it. So my money's still on the Celtics to get by in the first round and the second round. But they'll have tough matchups too. If they play the Knicks, that's a tough matchup. Whoever they end up playing in the first round, obviously if it's Orlando or Atlanta or something, I think they'll get by pretty easily. But the Knicks, tough matchup for them. And that should be one hell of a series. And if they end up getting past that, which would be a tough series for them, then you end up having to play Cleveland with no home court advantage. So, again, from 5-1, it's the Lakers, the Warriors, the Sixers, the Nuggets, and the Cavaliers. Those are the teams I'm most intrigued to watch down the stretch. Again, the Cavaliers, mostly just because of the success they had. I think their games down the stretch aren't going to be as exciting. It's not like they're trying to, fight for playoff positioning. So maybe my list isn't very accurate in terms of, maybe I was giving them I just more so wanted to give them the respect for the great season that they've had so far. But we should see how it goes and how it plays out the rest of the way. But yeah, those are the 5 teams that I'm watching down the stretch. Let me know what you guys think. Comment. Let me know if I missed any teams. And I'll keep trying to get these videos out as much as I can. Thanks for watching.